So if you were visiting DC for any reason and you were a client of any of these banks, you had a credit card or you had an account, you're using your debit card, they could have been looking at your financial records. There's this other cover-up we think is taking place related to the abuses around January 6th, where they've seemingly were targeting entire elements of the population using the January 6th disturbance as a pretext. We have these admissions by the FBI and the Justice Department, and there were press reports showing that they were getting banking data, specifically credit card and debit card transactions, of everyone in the District of Columbia or the area, the DMV, the District, Maryland, Virginia area, around January 5th and January 6th. Now, dear viewer, if you were a resident in January 5th and 6th, do you think the FBI had a right to look at your banking records just because you happened to be here that day? No, they didn't. And so we've asked for records about this, and the FBI and the Justice Department, they refused to give us any communications with the banks about this issue. And not only have they refused, but they've refused to confirm or deny that any such communications exist. They use what is called the GLOMAR exemption. Now, the GLOMAR exemption was, it goes back to a case. I think we were trying to figure out how to get access to a submarine that had sunk many years ago, and I think it was like the USS Glomar was one of the ships involved, and I guess a newspaper or a reporter figured out something was happening and tried to get some confirmation, and they gave the reporter we can't confirm or deny. And one can understand in national security situations why to confirm or deny something gives information away, right? Well, this obviously isn't a national security issue. This is an issue of FBI abuse of American citizens and privacy using January 6th as a fake reason to go after and review the banking records of millions, potentially, of innocent American citizens. I mean, this is a wild abuse of power by the government, in my view. And unfortunately, the lower court let the FBI get away with this GLOMAR, I can't confirm or deny response. And so we filed an appeal in November of last year challenging the lower court's decision allowing the FBI to withhold records of communications between the FBI and several financial institutions about the reported transfer of these private financial transaction information records. Judicial Watch asked for all records and communications between the FBI and any financial institution, included but not limited, Bank of America, Citibank, Chase, Manhattan Bank, Discover, and or American Express, in which the FBI sought transaction data for those financial institutions, debits, and credit card account holders who made purchases in DC, Maryland, or Virginia on January 5th and or January 6, 2021. We argued that this appeal arises from what appears to be an unprecedented abuse of the financial privacy of thousands of Americans. Substantial and compelling evidence demonstrates that the FBI sought and received records from financial institutions of anyone who used a credit card or engaged in other transactions in the DC area on January 5th or 6th, 2021. This would include many thousands of persons living in the DC area, including possibly members of this court. So no one was immune, right? If you had those transactions and they were pursued as has been suggested. Judicial Watch pointed out that the lower court was mistaken when it upheld the FBI's GLOMAR response, neither confirming nor denying the existence of records, because the FBI previously acknowledged the existence of the records in multiple ways. For instance, court records filed in support of a criminal case include the FBI's statement of facts that provide the defendant's address, which was obtained through his Bank of America account and recent Expedia transactions. In another case, the FBI confirmed that it obtained records from the PNC Bank and discussed in detail the multiple ways that it used the financial data. Additionally, financial records obtained from JP Morgan Chase Bank corroborate the defendant used a credit card issued in his name to purchase gas and food en route to DC. And then we cited two other cases in which the FBI describes in publicly available court records its use of financial records in the January 6th investigation. Why is that important? Because the FBI has basically let the cat out of the bag. This isn't a state secret. It shouldn't be a state secret. The only reason it is a state secret is because they were seeking financial data on folks that they knew were never involved or were likely never involved, or they had no reason to believe were involved in January 6th. So if you were visiting DC for any reason and you were a client of any of these banks, you had a credit card or you had an account, you're using your debit card, they could have been looking at your financial records. And anyone who was a resident, if they were doing anything using their using their credit cards or debit cards, the FBI could have been looking at the financial records potentially of millions of Americans here in DC area. And why is it a state secret? So we had the appellate court decision, the appellate court argument this morning, and you can listen to it. Unfortunately, the judges there were quite hostile towards us. So I don't know how they're going to rule. But when it comes to January 6th, there seems to be new rules for the government. They get to do what they want. And in this case, you had the Justice Department, I encourage you to listen to the hearing, suggest that, well, maybe this FOIA might be okay, but what if another FOIA comes up and we have to give up too much information? I mean, so this FOIA is okay, but we can't have the records because another FOIA in the future might not be okay. We want the rule of law to apply here. And don't use January 6th as an excuse to hide this abuse of power by the FBI and Justice Department that had them vacuuming up the financial data and violating the privacy and the constitutional rights of countless millions of Americans in their crazed response to the January 6th disturbance. Again, this is what I love about Judicial Watch, because the media cares not one whit about the abuses of power by the Biden administration and the deep state targeting those who are on the wrong side of the political argument on the 2020 election disputes. This is what it's about. It's a political argument. And what they're trying to do is criminalize those who have the wrong political views, mainly Trump and his supporters, and tens of millions, if not half the country, who have questions about the 2020 election. And to the degree they can tie anyone to January 6th, they'll break all the rules to get them. They'll hide videos in the Capitol. They'll snoop at bank records without a subpoena. And who knows what else they've been doing. And Judicial Watch will be front and center, demanding accountability and exposing this misconduct. And we're going to fight. We're going to lose in court sometimes, and we're going to win in court sometimes, but we're not just going to give up. And we're going to pursue it as best as we're able with our capacities. And of course, if you like what you're hearing here, I encourage you to increase our capacities, increase our ability to do the heavy lifting by supporting our work by going to our website at judicialwatch.org. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.